The discovery in the ruins. The crimson dust of Nova Prime swirled around Commander Theron Vale's boots as he made his way through the wreckage of what had once been humanity's most advanced research facility. His environmental suit's filters worked overtime, struggling to process the metallic tang that permeated the air. The facility had been attacked 3 days ago, and he was part of the emergency response team sent to search for survivors. Command: this is Vale. Section 7 appears clear. Moving to final quadrant, he reported, his voice steady despite the grim scene before him. The response came back, garbled through the interference. Something about the facility's remains was playing havoc with their communications. Theron's augmented vision swept across the debris field, cataloging twisted metal and shattered glass. The attack pattern didn't match any known hostile species in the database. This was something new, something calculated. As he stepped over a fallen support beam, his sensors picked up a faint energy signature. He followed the reading to its source, finding himself in what remained of the facility's quantum research wing. The signature grew stronger as he approached a sealed blast door, its surface marred by what appeared to be energy weapon impacts. But they hadn't breached it. Using his suit's enhanced strength, Theron managed to create enough space to slip through. The room beyond was surprisingly intact, though emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie blue glow. His sensors immediately locked onto a stasis pod tucked away in a corner, its systems running on auxiliary power. Inside, he could make out a woman's face, her features peaceful despite the chaos that had consumed the facility. According to the pod's readout, she was alive but in critical condition. The name on the pod read, Dr. L. Novak. Command: I found a survivor, Theron reported, already working to stabilize the pod systems. Female, appears to be research staff, requesting immediate medical evac. As he waited for a response, Theron noticed something odd. The pod's design was unlike anything he'd seen before, incorporating technology that seemed far more advanced than standard emergency equipment. He began the revival sequence, knowing that every moment in stasis increased the risk of neural damage. The pod's surface shimmered as it initiated its shutdown sequence. As the cover retracted, Dr. Novak's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of startling violet. She gasped, trying to sit up, but Theron gently restrained her. Easy, he said, his voice calm. You're safe now. I'm Commander Vale with the Emergency Response Division. Can you tell me what happened here? She focused on him, her expression shifting from confusion to alert fear. They came for it, she whispered, her voice hoarse. The Nexus. They knew somehow. You have to. She broke into a fit of coughing. Save your strength, Theron advised, but she grabbed his arm with surprising force. Listen to me, she insisted. If they get what they're looking for, everything changes. Not just here, but everywhere. Everywhen. Do you understand? Before Theron could respond, his sensors warned of multiple approaching signatures. The interference that had been affecting communications suddenly intensified, and he heard heavy footsteps echoing through the ruins. Dr. Novak's eyes widened. They're back, she whispered. Please, you have to help me destroy it before they. The wall beside them exploded inward, and Theron instinctively threw himself over her as debris rained down. Through the newly created opening, he could see figures in black armor moving with military precision, their weapons trained on the pod. Step away from the asset, a modulated voice commanded. This doesn't concern the Emergency Response Division. Theron's combat training kicked in as he assessed the situation. 6 hostiles, advanced weapons, clearly professional, and something about them felt wrong, like they weren't quite in sync with the reality around them. Dr. Novak's hand found his again. Commander, she said softly, what you decide to do next will affect more lives than you can imagine. Choose carefully. Theron Vale had always considered himself a by-the-book officer, but as he looked at the fear and determination in Dr. Novak's eyes, he made a decision that would alter the course of not just his life, but the very fabric of existence itself. He reached for his weapon. Echoes of truth. The Helios cut through hyperspace like a blade through silk, its quantum engines humming with barely contained power. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Lyra Novak sat on the edge of a diagnostic bed, her violet eyes fixed on the stars streaking past the viewport. 3 days had passed since Commander Theron Vale had made the split-second decision to protect her, fighting their way out of the ruins and commandeering his response ship. "Your neural patterns are stabilizing," the medical aide reported, its holographic interface floating beside her. "However, there are anomalies I cannot explain." "There's a lot of that going around," Theron said as he entered the bay, his armor replaced with a standard fleet uniform. The burns on his face from their escape were almost healed, thanks to advanced regeneration technology. "Feel up to answering some questions, Doctor." Lyra's fingers traced patterns in the air, and Theron noticed how the ship's systems seemed to resonate with her movements. "You risked everything to help me," she said. "You deserve answers. But knowing the truth will put you in even more danger." "I passed that point when I shot those agents," Theron replied, pulling up a chair. "Who were they? And what's the nexus they were after?" Lyra was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. "They call themselves the Obsidian Syndicate. They're not just criminals or mercenaries. There's something far worse. They exist slightly out of phase with our reality, allowing them to operate in the spaces between moments." Theron frowned. "That's impossible. The laws of physics are more flexible than we once believed," Lyra interrupted. "The quantum nexus proves that. It's not just a technology, Commander. It's a key to understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. And in the wrong hands, it could unravel the very fabric of existence." Before Theron could respond, the ship's alerts blared to life. "Multiple vessels detected," the ship's AI announced. "Emergence patterns suggest quantum displacement technology." "They found us," Lyra whispered, her face paling. She stood quickly, swaying slightly. "We need to reach the engine room. Now." Theron caught her arm as she stumbled. "You're barely recovered. And why the engine room?" "Because that's where I hid it," she said, her eyes meeting his. "The prototype. The only working model of the quantum nexus interface. It's integrated with your ship's systems." Understanding dawned on Theron's face. "That's why our escape was so easy. You were interfacing with the ship somehow, weren't you?" A sad smile crossed Lyra's face. "I wish it had been that simple. The truth is, Commander, I've been interfacing with reality itself. The Nexus allows its user to perceive and manipulate quantum probabilities, to see all possible outcomes and choose between them." The ship shuddered as the first shots from their pursuers found their mark. Theron helped Lyra toward the door, his military training warring with the impossibility of what she was describing. "If that's true, why didn't you prevent the attack on the facility?" "Because some events are fixed points," she replied as they hurried through the corridors. "Nexus points, where countless probabilities converge. The attack was one. Meeting you was another." She stopped suddenly, grabbing his arm. "And what happens in the next few minutes will be one too." The ship rocked again, more violently this time. "Hull breach on Deck 3, the AI reported. Unknown entities attempting quantum insertion into main engineering. They're trying to phase directly aboard," Lyra explained, her voice urgent. "Commander, listen carefully. When we reach engineering, you'll have to make a choice. The Nexus will show you possibilities, millions of them, every potential future branching out like streams from a river. But choosing the wrong one could collapse not just our reality, but countless others." Theron checked his weapon as they reached the engine room doors. "How will I know which is right?" Lyra's expression softened. "The same way you knew to save me. Sometimes the heart sees what quantum mechanics cannot." The doors slid open to reveal the massive quantum drive core, its crystalline structure pulsing with energy. And surrounding it, stepping through reality like ghosts becoming solid, were the black-armored figures of the Obsidian Syndicate. Dr. Novak, their leader, said, his voice distorted by more than just the helmet's speakers. "The time has come to fulfill your true purpose. The multiverse awaits its liberation." Lyra's hand found Theron's, and in that moment, he felt reality shift. Suddenly he could see them, all the possible futures spiraling out from this moment like strands of light. In some, they died here. In others, they escaped, only to face worse fates. And in one, barely visible but shining with a truth he couldn't explain, he saw something that made his breath catch. "Choose carefully, Commander Vale," Lyra whispered. "Everything depends on what happens next." Breaking point. Time seemed to flow like liquid crystal around Theron as the quantum possibilities danced through his consciousness. Each potential future branched and split, creating an infinite web of choices and consequences. The Obsidian Syndicate forces surrounded them, their armor seeming to shift between solid matter and shadow. The Nexus was never meant for a single reality, their leader said, taking a step forward. "Dr. Novik knows this. She's seen the truth. All realities are cages, limiting the potential of existence itself. We offer freedom from these constraints." Theron felt Lyra's hand tighten in his. Through their connection, he could sense her fear, but also her determination. The quantum drive core pulsed behind them, its rhythm somehow matching his heartbeat. "You offer chaos," Lyra responded, her voice stronger than before. "The collapse of all dimensional barriers, the destruction of causality itself. Billions would die in the convergence." "Billions already die, Doctor. In countless realities, in endless cycles of suffering. We can end it all, reshape existence into something greater." The leader's helmet retracted, revealing a face that seemed to exist in multiple states at once, features shifting like smoke. "Show him, Doctor. Show him what you showed us." Lyra closed her eyes, and suddenly Theron's perception expanded exponentially. He saw worlds where humanity had never evolved, realities where Earth was a paradise, dimensions where consciousness itself had taken different forms. The sheer weight of infinite possibility threatened to overwhelm him. But through it all, he felt Lyra's presence anchoring him. "This is what they don't understand," she whispered in his mind. "Each reality, each moment has its own perfect beauty, its own purpose." The ship shuddered around them as more syndicate forces phased through the walls. The quantum drive's containment field flickered, reality rippling in its wake. Theron saw multiple versions of himself reaching for his weapon, each making a different choice, each leading to a different outcome. "Enough games," the syndicate leader snarled, his form becoming more solid. "The Nexus, Doctor. Now, or we'll take it from your corpse and find you in another reality." Theron felt it then, a tremor in the quantum field, a moment where all possibilities seemed to converge. Lyra had called these Nexus points, and now he understood why. In this moment, infinite futures collapsed into a single choice. "Commander," Lyra said softly, "I need you to trust me. What I'm about to show you, it's the truth I've been carrying. The reason they want the Nexus so badly." Before he could respond, she pressed her other hand to his temple, and the universe exploded in his mind. He saw the true nature of the quantum nexus, not just as a tool for viewing realities, but as the key to something far more fundamental. In every dimension, in every possible timeline, there existed a force that held reality together, that gave meaning to existence itself. The Syndicate didn't want to free humanity from the constraints of reality. They wanted to harness this force, to become gods of a broken multiverse. And Lyra, she wasn't just the Nexus's creator. She was its guardian, chosen by forces beyond human comprehension to protect the delicate balance of existence. "Now you understand," she said, lowering her hand, "why it had to be you. Why across a million possible timelines, I waited for someone who would make the right choice, not because of destiny or duty, but because of what's in their heart." The Syndicate forces raised their weapons, reality warping around their forms. The quantum drive core pulsed faster, responding to the mounting tension in the room. Theron saw every possible way this confrontation could end. victory, defeat, sacrifice, escape, all existing simultaneously in the quantum foam of possibility. But more than that, he saw Lyra, not just as she was now, but as she existed across all realities. In some she was a warrior, in others a teacher, a leader, a savior. But in every reality where hope survived, she was there, fighting to protect the beautiful fragility of existence itself. Your heart sees what quantum mechanics cannot, she had told him. Now, standing at the nexus point of infinite realities, Theron Vale finally understood what she meant. The choice before him wasn't about tactics or probability. It was about faith, faith in the power of a single moment to change everything. He smiled at Lyra, a smile that contained all the courage and certainty he had left. "Together?" he asked. Her answering smile illuminated realities beyond counting. "Together." The quantum drive core flared with impossible brightness as they made their choice, and reality itself held its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this crucible of infinite possibility. Quantum destiny. The universe fractured and reformed around them as Theron and Lyra activated the full power of the quantum nexus. The Helios's engine room became a kaleidoscope of realities, each one bleeding into the next. The Obsidian Syndicate forces fired, their weapons tearing holes not just in space, but in the fabric of existence itself. But Lyra was ready. Through their linked consciousness, Theron felt her guiding the Nexus' power, using it to weave a barrier between dimensions. The shots from the Syndicate's weapons scattered across multiple realities, their deadly energy dispersing harmlessly through countless parallel worlds. "Impossible," the Syndicate leader growled, his form flickering between states of existence. "You've never demonstrated this level of control before." Lyra's violet eyes glowed with inner light as she maintained their defense. "Because before, I was afraid of the power. Afraid of making the wrong choice." She glanced at Theron. "But sometimes the right choice finds you." The quantum drive core pulsed in sync with their shared consciousness, and Theron began to understand the true nature of their connection. It wasn't just about seeing possibilities. It was about sharing strength, about two souls resonating across the quantum foam of reality itself. "The containment field won't hold," he warned, feeling the strain through their link. "We're drawing too much power." "We don't need it to hold," Lyra replied, her voice echoing strangely through multiple dimensions. "We just need it to show them the truth." With a gesture, she expanded their quantum barrier, forcing the Syndicate forces to witness what she and Theron could see. The infinite beauty of existence, the delicate balance of every reality, the cosmic dance of possibility and choice that gave meaning to all things. Some of the Syndicate soldiers fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the vision. Others fired more desperately, their weapons creating cascading ripples of destruction through nearby realities. The leader stood firm, his shifting face contorted with rage. "You think showing us the beauty of the prison makes it less of a cage?" he snarled. "We've seen beyond these limitations, Doctor. We've seen what existence could become without these artificial barriers." "No," Theron said, finally understanding. "You've seen what you want to see. But the barriers aren't prison walls. They're foundation stones. Each reality exists separately because it has to, because that's what gives each choice meaning." The quantum drive's warnings reached critical levels as reality continued to fluctuate around them. Through their link, Theron felt Lyra's strength beginning to fade. Maintaining the barrier across so many dimensions was taking its toll. The Nexus was never meant to break down walls, she told the Syndicate leader, her voice strained but determined. "It was meant to remind us that every choice matters, that every reality has purpose, even yours." Something shifted in the quantum field then, a tremor that ran through all realities at once. The Syndicate leader's form stabilized suddenly, becoming solid in a way it hadn't been before. His eyes widened with what might have been fear. "What have you done?" he demanded. "Shown you your own truth," Lyra said softly. "Every reality you've touched, every dimension you've tried to break, they're all connected. and now they're all pushing back. The quantum barrier pulsed with new energy as reality itself seemed to reject the syndicate's presence. Their soldiers began to phase uncontrollably, their forms trapped between dimensions. The leader reached for Lyra with desperate fury, but his hand passed through her like smoke. "You'll die too," he warned. "The quantum backlash will tear this ship apart. All of this will have been for nothing." Theron felt Lyra's determination through their link. "Not nothing," she said. "A choice. The right choice." The quantum drive core reached critical mass, its energy merging with the nexus in ways that defied comprehension. Through their connection, Theron saw what had to happen next, the price they would have to pay to restore balance to reality itself. He turned to Lyra, seeing in her eyes that she understood too. In that moment, suspended between infinite possibilities, they made one final choice together. Not because of destiny or duty, but because their hearts beat as one across every reality where hope survived. "For every world," Lyra whispered. "For every choice," Theron replied. They reached for the quantum drive core together as reality itself began to unravel around them. Beyond the void, the universe held countless secrets, but perhaps none greater than this. When pushed to its absolute limit, reality doesn't break, it transforms. As Theron and Lyra's hands touched the quantum drive core, its crystalline surface pulsing with impossible energy, they became living proof of this truth. The Nexus's power flowed through them, not as a tool to be controlled, but as a force of nature seeking balance. Through their shared consciousness, they could see every reality affected by the Syndicate's interference, every dimension crying out for healing. The task before them was both simple and impossible: to restore what was broken, to reweave the torn fabric of existence itself. "Even if we succeed," Theron said through their link, "we might not survive the rebalancing." Lyra's consciousness brushed against his, warm with affection and certainty. "Some choices are worth any price." The Syndicate forces were frozen around them, caught in the quantum flux as reality prepared to reassert itself. Their leader's face was a mask of horror as he finally understood the true power of the Nexus, not to break barriers, but to restore them. Through their connection to the quantum core, Theron and Lyra began the delicate work of separation. Each reality needed to be gentled back into its proper place, each dimension allowed to resume its natural flow. It was like conducting an orchestra of infinite size, every note vital to the greater harmony. "I can feel them," Theron whispered in awe. "All the lives we're saving, all the choices we're protecting." "This is what they never understood," Lyra replied, her consciousness entwined with his. "Reality isn't a prison. It's a garden, and every world is a flower growing in its own perfect way." The quantum drive's energy suffused them completely now, turning their forms translucent as they existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions. The Syndicate soldiers began to fade, each returning to their original reality, their memories of other dimensions becoming like dreams. Their leader fought against the tide of restoration, his form flickering desperately between states of existence. "You don't have the right to decide this for everyone," he raged. "Every being deserves the chance to transcend their limitations." "They already can," Lyra responded, her voice echoing through all realities. "Through love, through courage, through the choices they make every day. That's the real transcendence." The quantum core pulsed one final time, and Theron felt the moment of truth approaching. The restoration was nearly complete, but the energy building in their bodies had to go somewhere. In that instant, he saw every possible future extending before them, and realized that in each one where reality fully healed, they paid the ultimate price. But there was something else too, something hidden in the quantum foam between possibilities, a tiny thread of hope, barely visible even to their enhanced perception. "Do you see it?" he asked Lyra. "Yes," she replied, her consciousness bright with joy and determination. One last choice to make. Instead of fighting the quantum energy building within them, they embraced it fully. As reality stabilized around them, As the last echoes of dimensional damage healed, they allowed themselves to become pure energy, their consciousness spreading across the restored multiverse like starlight. The Helios's engine room rematerialized, empty now except for the softly humming quantum drive core. The ship's AI registered all systems returning to normal, reality restored to its proper frequency. To all external observers, it appeared that Commander Theron Vale and Dr. Lyra Novak had sacrificed themselves to save existence itself. But somewhere, in a quiet corner of the multiverse, on a small planet circling an unremarkable star, two people opened their eyes at exactly the same moment. Their memories were like dreams, but their hearts recognized each other instantly. In a small cafe, a man with sharp blue eyes looked up from his coffee to see a woman with violet eyes taking the seat across from him. Neither spoke for a long moment, both feeling the weight of infinite possibility in this simple meeting. Finally, she smiled. "Of all the realities we could have chosen," she said, "I'm glad we chose this one." He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Through that simple touch, they felt the echo of their quantum connection, transformed now into something beautifully, perfectly human. "Every choice led here," he replied, "to this moment, this reality." Above them, stars wheeled in their courses, each one containing countless worlds, countless choices, countless possibilities. But in this cafe, in this moment, two hearts beat in perfect synchronization across all dimensions, proving that sometimes the greatest power isn't in breaking reality's walls, but in choosing to live within them, fully and beautifully. And somewhere, in the quantum foam between possibilities, the Nexus continued its eternal work, protecting the infinite garden of existence, waiting for the next guardians who would understand that true transcendence comes not from escaping reality's bounds, but from embracing the perfect beauty of every single choice.